Hello everyone, my name's Adam, I'm the original Penguin. Please let me know if there are any issues at all with the sound, the music being too loud, anything like that. Please let me know. I haven't streamed in a long time. I probably should have done a test stream, but anyway, so you're here because you're interested in Farming Simulator 22 and the really confusing, I want to use the word mess, but I suppose that's a little bit unkind, but the very confusing game that it is. The last time I did this was for Terraria actually, and quite a few people seem to find it helpful, so I'll be glad to do that again. But yeah, I don't know if I'm actually going to get around to the point of doing strawberries. This stream isn't going to be 8 hours long, but anyway, so let's get stuck in. So first of all, let's say you've bought the game. Actually, before we start, you see that little green blob that's dancing around the screen? For those of you who haven't seen any of my streams before, that is Toby. That is where I'm looking. So sometimes I might say over there. As I'm not using my mouse, all you have to do is follow the green thing and it's where I'm looking. Thank you very much, Link. That's you're going to make me blush. Anyway, so back to the stream. So you've bought yourself Farming Simulator 22, and I'm going off the assumption you've either played a little bit of 19 or none at all. So first things first, you're going to want to load up career mode. Let's go over to an empty save. And you get presented with three options. I really recommend against starting on the hardest difficulty, especially if you've got very little experience. I don't even play on the hard difficulty, and I have about 500 hours on the across the two games. Farm Manager's good fun. It allows you to, in fact, I'll show you. I'm going to put us on both New Farmer and Farm Manager. But Farm Manager will give you starting money, a sizable amount, 1.5 million. And then from there, it's your responsibility to to purchase the equipment you need, the land that you want, and anything else. That gives the most degree of flexibility, especially if, for example, you want to do forestry, which is possible in Farming Simulator. You'll want to start with the Farm Manager, otherwise it's going to take you several in-game years to get to the point where you'll be able to afford those machines if you do New Farmer. Speaking of New Farmer, this is what I'm going to start on. So New Farmer is the easiest mode. According to the game, like I said, I prefer Farm Manager, but New Farmer will set you off with all the equipment you need to just get farming done. So let's go ahead and see what that's like. I kind of jumped the gun there. So there are three maps on Farming Simulator 22. You have Elm Creek, Hort Baileron, and I forgot the name of the third one, but the first and second map, so Elm Creek and Hort Baileron, those are your best maps for playing Farming Simulator if you're new. The last one, Erlengrad, that's what it's called, Erlengrad. The final map is more about alternative ways of making money. There are no really big fields on the final map, and there aren't very many production buildings or cell locations, so you're more likely to do animal husbandry or forestry or anything like that instead of farming. There will be some farming involved, obviously, but anyway, so let's make a start. We are on Elm Creek. That is the fictional American starting location. We can do all sorts of customization. I'm just going to I'm only going to do one thing. There we go. Right, I quite like that purple, so we'll go for that. I'm happy with that. And just confirm. And thank you everyone who's joined, by the way. I really appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully you learn lots of interesting things and I can help answer some of the questions you may have. Speaking of which, if you have specific questions, please feel free to ask them and I will do my best to answer them. I'm going to go no on this because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to give you the guided tour. However, if you do want to take part in... Let's let the game load. If you do want to take part in the guided tour, these icons here will give you semi-useful information. Okay, so just so you know, I'm playing with the Stadia controller, so I'll be reading out controls. The PC version, not the PC, sorry, the keyboard and mouse version, the controls are always up on the top left of the screen where I'm looking, and that's how you'll find out. So for example, if I get inside this combine harvester, then you can see up in the top left there, it says attach, open AI worker menu and select the camera. And to get into the vehicle, I press X on the Stadia controller. I do know the PC volume for that, it's return. Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, the first thing you're going to want to do when you're first starting out, again, assuming you have very little past experience or knowledge of the Farming Simulator series, is you're going to want to open up the pause menu. You want to cycle through to the game settings, not the general settings. I mean, you can go through the general settings, change the currency, change all these units if you're interested in any of that. But the main thing, the game sound is a little bit loud. Okay, no worries, thanks for letting me know. I shall turn that down. Okay, so let me know if that's still an issue, as I... Oh, I can see that one's quite loud. Okay. Right, okay, so I believe that should be... Thanks, Link. I believe that should be fixed. So the first thing you want to do is you want to come into here, into this game settings, and you can name your save if you think you're going to have multiple maps. I've only named a couple of mine, but the autosave interval. Right now, as the game is at the minute, I really I can't even stress how strongly I recommend you set this to 5 minutes, because it only autosaves when you open this pause menu. So it doesn't matter if it's set to 5 or 15 or an hour. If you don't press the pause button and it crashes, you will lose a lot of progress. So have it save as often as possible. That's my, if there's one thing you take away from this stream, it's set the autosave to 5 minutes. If Lee's still in the chat, he will tell you the crashes are the worst thing about this game. Losing whole months of, in-game months of work because it didn't save. Anyway, I'm lingering. Timescale. You can set this however you want. When I used to play Farming Simulator 19, I'd keep it on real time, which means an in-game minute is a real life minute. It doesn't really make much of a difference. If you set it too fast, you won't be able to harvest within the day that you go to harvest. That can be a problem when it comes to seasonal growth, because crops can only be harvested and planted within certain months of the year. Oh my goodness, I didn't even know it went up to 360. So I'm just gonna leave it on 5 times, which is the default. But again, you can set it to whatever you want. You can even put it to half time. So an in-game day is 48 real hours. Economic difficulty, leave that on easy. It just means that you earn money a little bit quicker. It doesn't really take much away from the game. It's still challenging. It's still a grind to get that money, but it just doesn't feel as hopeless, I guess. Anyway, traffic. I mean, you'll learn to hate the traffic. They're like immovable objects, and they do not yield. So, but I'm just going to leave that on. Seasonal growth. If this is the first time you've ever played a farming simulator game, I suggest you turn this off, because otherwise you're going to be sat there doing nothing between planting and harvesting. But I'm going to leave it on just for the sake of showing you how it works. Days per month, you probably want to keep that at 1, especially if you've got your time scale below, say, 30 times. If you've got it above that, you might want to increase the number of days. It can go up to 28 days. It's actually 29. I don't know why. I can't figure out how that's worked out the way that it has, but there are 29 days in a month when you set it to 28 days. Fixed visual month doesn't really do much. It just makes the game look like it's in a particular month. Snow, not an issue. Crop destruction. Okay, so now we're getting into the these are the annoyances, the finer details that that can make the game feel more difficult than it needs to. So again, if you've never played this game before, I would suggest turning them all off. Okay, I'll explain why. So crop destruction. Crop destruction means that if you drive over any of your crops, once they've reached a certain growth, I think it's the second stage or the third stage of growth, but if you drive over any of them with a tractor that doesn't have thin wheels on it, thank you very much, RJ. If you drive over a tractor, if you drive over your crops with the tractor that doesn't have thin wheels, you will destroy that crop. You'll press it into the ground. And, I mean, you're not going to be losing lots of money, but it will add up over time. Periodic ploughing. Ploughing is probably one of the slowest things in this game. And if you've got a large field, my goodness, you don't want to have to plough that. Periodic ploughing means every 3 harvests you have to plough the entire field. Fieldstone, they're not a big issue. You can ignore them. They do slightly reduce your crop yield, but and they do also damage your machinery slightly quicker. However, machines do last quite a long time in this game, so they're not particularly an issue. Lime required. Liming can be quite expensive. Again, this is a once every 3 harvests thing. And there's only 2 pieces of equipment that work with liming, so you can leave it on, turn it off. You don't have to do it very often, and it is much quicker than the ploughing. But yeah, like I said, if you're brand new, I really suggest you leave these all off. And weeds can cause serious problems with crop yield. They can lower it by, I think, something like 40% or 30%. Which is quite a lot. Even if you're playing on easy, that's going to be a good chunk of your money gone. So I'm going to actually leave these. I'm going to turn that one off and leave that off. I'm going to turn those on for now so that you can see. Oh, I don't know whether I need to turn this in. Anyway, okay, some more things. Dirt, that is what it is. Doesn't affect how your tractors drive or operate. It's just visual. Automatic engine start. I like to turn this off. That means you have to turn the engine on and you have to turn it off. When you're playing single player, if you're, for example, let's say your harvester is finished harvesting. If your engine is still running, you can drive underneath that with the trailer and it will unload. But if the engine automatically turns itself off, you have to get into the harvester to make it unload into the trailer. So I usually turn this off. Stop and go braking, you'll want this on. Trailer fill limit. So, this is really naughty that they've hidden this in here. In the game, you can buy several types of trailer, and there's lots of container items for carrying stuff like crops, carrying seeds, carrying other vehicles. It's just so much. But, just because something is the biggest, doesn't mean it's going to hold the most. What will happen is, you'll probably end up doing what I did. Oh, I need to unpause to be able to show you. You'll probably end up doing what I did when I first started playing this, and I aimed to buy this double trailer, which, as you can see up there, the volume and information, it can hold 81.2 meters cubed of various crops. But actually, if you fill this trailer, you aren't going to be able to move it. It is far too heavy for anything but the most powerful tractor. And with that, you really want to be using the truck anyway. So I turned this on, and what that means is you just can't fill the trailer to full. It's just to its maximum weight capacity. So for example, in the trailer I just showed you, I think it's something like 41, is it 41,000 kilograms? Something like that. Let's have a quick look. Oh, let's turn the pause off. Okay, yeah, my bad, not 41. So it's 60.6 tons. So as you can see there with the Toby blob, it can hold 81.2 meters cubed in volume, but it has a max load capacity of 60.6 tons. And I can tell you now that 81.2 meters cubed is usually more than 60.6 tons. So again, that's why I like to turn it on, because otherwise you end up struggling pulling things and they might get stuck. You have to then empty. It's a real mess. Fuel usage, do what you want with that. It just means you might have to refuel a bit more often. Leave these all on buy for now. We're going to talk about the AI helpers. And other than that, we're done with the settings. So this is for your very first time playing the game. We're putting everything on easy. So remember, autosave, set it to 5. Oh my god, please set it to 5. Timescale, you probably want to leave that on default or go real time. You can always speed up time later on. Leave this on easy. Seasonal growth, you probably want to turn that off. And all of these crops and growth settings, you want them off the first time you play. So, oh, game paused. Right, so what do we do now? So we've spawned into our farm. How do we know this is our farm now? If you look down in the minimap down here, you can see 45, you can barely see, 44, 45 and 46 are light blue. That means that we own that land. That's actually one plot of land, but it happens to have 3 fields on it. Another way you can do that is by opening up this pause menu again, cycling through to the map, not the wheel, the map. I know they're both the map, but for some reason they separated it instead of having them controllable on the same user interface. And as you can see, 44, 45 and 46 are all blue, and so that means we own it. If you want to see what land is purchasable, down in the bottom left there you can see it says farmland, whatever the key press is for PC. If we press that button, you can see these are all the purchasable plots of land, and some of them contain multiple fields, some of them contain only one field. And some of them are very, very expensive, whilst others are really, really cheap. Anyway, so let's do some farming, shall we? So we're inside our combine harvester. The engine is not on. If you haven't turned on, if you haven't turned off engine auto start, your engine will be running. As you can see up in the top left there in the controls, there are standard controls where it's just A, B and R3. There are various ones depending on the machine you're in. You can also hold L1 and it shows you more controls. You can also hold R1 and it shows you more controls. You can also hold L1 and R1 and it will show you more controls. You'll learn over time which combination you have to press to find what you're looking for. With the exception of the cranes, anything that's like a crane, that one always confuses me. But anyway, so to start this, I'm going to hit R1 and X to start my engine. As you can see down there, that's my my RPM meter gauge has just gone up. We'll connect the header, that's called a header. And now we can drive the harvester. I think I turned crop destruction on, so just to show you, as you can see, as I drove over that, I've started destroying my crops. So, if I turn on the harvester, which says there, L1 and X, unfold first, L1 and X, there we go, and we can start driving around the field. And as you can see down the bottom right, my grain tank is slowly starting to fill up. Good evening, Sketchy One. Right, so that's all well and good. You might want to do that a couple of times manually, but eventually it ends up being quite a long job. So if I turn off the harvester for a second, as you can see, I've left something behind the harvester, and if you look, oh, it's not going to pop up. Okay, well, this is straw. Straw could be collected and used for animals. It can also be collected and sold. We don't have any of the equipment required to pick up the straw, so I'm going to disable creating, that's called straw swap. I'm going to disable that, which is L1 and right, And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press B and it's going to hire a worker. As long as you're on or next to a field in a piece of equipment that can be used on that field, if you press B or whatever button it is on PC, the game will do it for you. Look, see, I'm not in there anymore. And that is part of the AI system that the game uses. It's not 100%. You may run into... No, you will run into problems. But it gets most of the job done most of the time. And it saves you a lot of time. So, what do we do now? Well, we've got another field here and we've got another field over there. So let's run over to this tractor. Okay, so we pick up, that's a front weight there. That's a weight, sorry, on the front. Turn on the engine, and then I'm going to pick this up. This is a seeder. If you look at the bottom right, it says we're going to be planting wheat. You'll learn what these symbols are, but you can find information for that. In this, it looks like a graph icon, so these icons are what you're looking at. So now, if I try to do the same thing that I just did with that, why I press B and tell the AI worker to go, watch what happens. This fruit cannot be planted in August. So, this is what seasonal growth is. If you have seasonal growth turned off, that message won't pop up for any crop ever. You'll just be able to plant whatever you want, whenever you want to. So for the sake of showing those who want to play with seasonal growth, which is a new feature for Farming Simulator 22, I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to explain how you figure out what can be planted and what can be harvested when. So you want to open up the pause menu, go over to the calendar icon, and that blue line in the middle of the calendar, that's the current month. And you're looking for whatever can be planted now. It might be you wait until next month to plant a different crop. Wheat can be planted in September and we're in August, so I could wait till the next month to plant it. Alternatively, as I look through there, the green bars I'm looking at, currently in August, canola can be planted. So what I'll do then is I'm going to change the crop to canola, and then I'm going to tell the AI worker to go ahead and do some seeding. There we go. One thing the game doesn't tell you, and you might want to bear this bit of information in mind, is you can swap between tractors and equipment and blah blah blah. You saw me get out and run between equipment, but you don't have to do that. I don't know the buttons for the PC version, but if you press left and right on the D-pad, you will swap between your various machines. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this piece of machinery. This is a cultivator. I will explain what order fields have to be worked in a minute. For now, once you've harvested, you need to cultivate. That's the important piece of information. So we're going to send off this AI worker. Right, and we'll come over to here. This is our trailer. If you're playing multiplayer, by the way, something to note, you can only have a maximum of, I think it's 5 AI workers per farm. I believe it's 5, it could be more. Whereas on single player, I believe you can have a lot more. I haven't hit a limit on single player, and there have been times when I've had about 8 AI helpers going at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unload the combine harvester into my trailer, and what I could do is I could drop some off into that silo, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you about how to sell your crop. And by the way, if you have any questions about anything you've seen so far, please let me know. There's so much for me to cover about Farming Simulator 22. I'm just trying to get through it with the best information, but as quickly as I can. Tell you what, whilst that's finishing off doing that, let's have another quick look. So just to bring you back to this, green is when you can plant, orange is when you can harvest. And if you scroll down, you can see there are some more. Poplar can be harvested all year round. So can grass, so can oilseed radish. However, some things to note. First of all, poplar needs specialist machinery to harvest and to plant. Oilseed radish is not a harvesting crop, despite the fact that it says harvest. It's called a catch crop. So what you do is you plant oilseed radish, and then when it's fully grown, you cultivate the oilseed radish. You don't try and harvest it. You're basically pushing it into the ground, and it acts as a stage of fertilizer. And it is cheaper than using fertilizer. However, it does take longer, because fertilizing can be done in one day, whereas oilseed radish needs time to grow. Olives and grapes, another thing to mention, they both are new crops for Farming Simulator 22. They require specialist machinery. I'll get onto all of this as soon as I can. I just want to cover the basics. Sorghum, soybeans, oat, canola, barley and wheat, they can all be harvested with that harvester, with this type of header, the header that we all know that belongs on a combine harvester. The other ones I will show you in a minute, but the other ones you probably haven't seen before. Corn and sunflowers both require specialist headers. Potatoes require specialist machinery, so does beetroot. Sugarcane requires specialist machinery, and cotton requires very expensive specialist machinery. So let's go on from there. This is the weather. I find this screen to be mostly useless. You can't no, that's not true. You can in this game. You can harvest when it's raining or snowing. However, you will have a significantly lower crop yield. I don't know the number, but it is massively lower. So as you can see, let me move that cursor out of the way. You're not even supposed to be there. So as you can see, in October it's going to rain, and November, December it's going to snow, January and February. It doesn't say when. It's not going to be the whole day, or it's very unlikely to be the whole day. So that's why you've got this little hour by hour weather forecast here, and that can help you. So for example, if you skip a day, which is possible, if you skip a day and you find that it's raining and you want to harvest, all you have to do is look at the weather screen and you can see how many in-game hours you have to wait until you can go ahead and harvest. Awesome, that's this screen done. Let's move on to these prices. So as you can see, we have all the crops that you've seen before, and then we've got a few more. So I'll keep going. Some of this stuff can't be sold, it can only be bought. Let me see, I think fuel is one. There it is, diesel. Okay. Okay. Oh. I don't know whether they've removed it, but it used to say a price underneath the selling if there was a place to buy that stuff. Anyway, so what happens is there are certain places on the map that you can go to sell various crops. For example, the canola can be taken to the oil mill and Feed and Grain South, whereas wheat can't be taken to the oil mill, but it can also be taken to Feed and Grain South. You can add more of these locations, more of these sell points via the construction menu. I'll show you that when I load up the other save, when I load up the medium difficulties. But for now, all you need to know is when you have a certain crop, what you can do is you can look at the price. You can hold on to it for a while. If there's a green arrow, that means the price is still rising. If there's a red arrow, it means the price is still falling. If there's no arrow, that means the price has settled. For example, here. That price is settled, it will be stable for possibly a little while. Whereas, for example, this price is likely to continue descending. Hey Ruben, thanks for stopping by. So, that's that. Now we move on to this. This is the vehicle overview. I rarely use this screen because all the information that you actually have on here, the information that you'll actually be interested in, is available when you're in the vehicle. So for example, as you can see there, all those 100%, that's the current wear of the... is it wear? What's the opposite of wear? The unworn percentage? Anyway, it's the negative wear percentage of that machinery, but you can see that when you're actually in each machine, and you can also see the sell value over there. So if you were to go sell that vehicle, that's how much you would get. Come across to here, this is your finance screen. To be honest, I don't often check through the finances. The important thing is down here, you can see there's your balance, and underneath that there's a loan. You can take out a 500,000, whatever currency you're using, you can take out a £500,000 loan. There we go. There was some real button mashing now. I think my microphone keyed it out, but yeah, that was a lot of pressing. Anyway, so you can take out a £500,000 loan. If you're playing on easy, your loan repayments, the interest, sorry, you have to manually repay loans. Please bear that in mind. You have to come back and manually repay. It does not pay it off over time. You only pay interest. So, the loan interest that you pay per every time you go through a day or a month or whatever is really low on easy, so don't worry too much if you take out a £500,000 loan and then realise, hang on, I can't pay this off, because chances are you'll be fine for a good while before you have to worry about money. I'm actually not going to bother repaying it because I can't be bothered to spam the Y button, so I'm just going to go on from here. Animals, I'll get onto animals another time. I'll probably have to load up one of my other saves to show you, because this is all very expensive. Contracts, this is how you're going to make some money on the side between doing your crops. That's if you have seasonal growth on. If you have seasonal growth off, you'll just be busy doing crops. But if you want to make a little bit extra money, you can come here and do contracts. So for example, let's see if there's a nice easy one. Okay, so I like this, the look of this contract, right? It pays £3,000, and I don't have a sprayer. You can see down there the two machines. I have a tractor, but I don't have a sprayer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow the items and press Y to do it. And as you can see, that contract is now active. You can have 3 active contracts in Farming Simulator 22. Farming Simulator 19, it was 1, but there are 3 now. So for those of you who played the previous game, you will be overjoyed to hear that, no doubt, because I know I was. This is production chains screen. I will talk more about production chains in a bit. Statistics, statistics is what statistics does. You've got your game settings, your general settings. These are your bindings. This is really complicated to actually read, because look right stick -X plus. It's not the easiest. Look at this. L1 and R1, left stick, Y plus. It's a bit complicated to actually understand this. You're best off just experimenting. Mash some buttons and see what happens. Hope for the best. That's what I did. That's how I've learnt the game. And if you ever want any more information, I've got to be honest, the Farming Simulator 22 help section is really lackluster compared to 19. It does not give you very much information. Certainly doesn't give you enough. But it might give you that bit of information that you need. So, that is all of the things available on this screen, minus this. I'm going to show you this in just a second. So, oh yes, the contract. Sort out that contract. When you borrow equipment for a contract, you cannot use it for anything other than that contract. Sure, you might be able to pick up another trailer and drop the trailer off at yours, but for example, I can't use this sprayer over at my field. It will say this equipment is reserved for contract work. So let's have a look. What field have I got to go to? When you do a contract, the field you have to go to will flash. So as you can see down there in my mini-map, field 72. That's where I've got to go. So, we'll make our way over there. By the way, even with crop destruction on, if you don't own the field, I mean, I've got narrow tyres on this, so it wouldn't destroy the crop anyway, but if you don't own the field, you won't destroy the crop. Even if you're doing a contract, you won't destroy the crop. So you don't have to worry about making sure all of your tractors have narrow tyres, for example. And you may be wondering, why not just have narrow tyres on everything? It's because narrow tyres are less stable. It's easier to flick the machine. I'm not going to be able to, but it's easier to flick the tractor. Also, they get less traction. So sometimes it might be something's particularly heavy, or you're on a hill. With a narrow tyred tractor, you won't get that traction that you need to get it going. Anyway, so we need to unfold this, and I'm going to get the AI worker to do this contract for me, and there's a reason why. If you look down where I'm looking at the minute, you see it says 0%. That's how much liquid fertilizer is in this. Oh, I better check the contract actually says liquid fertilizer, not herbicide. Okay, herbicide. Bear with me, it will default to liquid fertilizer and I won't complete the contract. So when something like that happens, you just need to get some herbicide. I will go into this in more detail because I know I've just rushed through that, but it's just because I'm trying to show you about doing the contracts and a feature that's available for machinery that uses things. So the seeder, the sprayers, the fertilizers, etc., etc. Multiple ways you can refill fillable equipment. First of all, you can just sit next to it, and as long as you're close enough, you can see there on my controls it says refill sprayer. Another way you can do it is where's the oh, this one doesn't have it. Another way you can do it is you can, if I had the like a forklift or a telehandler, I could hold that over the fill point, which is, I'm assuming, that red handle, and it will empty into it that way. I'm going to do it this way, and I only need a little bit just so that the game knows I want herbicide. Bear in mind, you can't sell bought pallets, so if you buy too many, you're going to either have to move them out of the way or you're just stuck with them. Usually I wouldn't do this, usually I wouldn't be driving over other fields. I try and play it a little bit more realistically, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to show you this one. So we'll unfold this again. We've got the herbicide. So now if I turn on the sprayer, as you can see down there, down at the herbicide fill level, you can see it's dropping. If I turn that off for a second, if I hire an AI worker, that won't drop. And if you remember, in the settings, I told you to leave these on buy. If I turn off fertilizer, as the AI worker does this, they will use up the herbicide. So if you leave that on buy, it will cost you more to use the worker, but it also means that you don't end up needing to buy pallets of things, with the exception of I needed to specify that we're using herbicide. So now, I'm just going to leave this to do its thing. It might end up getting stuck or stopping itself or saying it's finished when it hasn't, but hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm going to come back to here because I want to show you the AI worker menu. So, I'm going to pipe out. The harvester into my trailer. So the harvester is now empty, and I know the harvester is empty because the trailer isn't full. If the trailer was full, it might mean that the harvester still has some left in it. But yeah, I know that the harvester is empty because the trailer isn't either a 100%, nor does it have, it's like a little lock icon if it's reached its weight capacity. So first of all, I'm just going to show you what this silo does, how you use the silo. There are different silos. Some of them require conveyor belts, separate conveyor belts, but most of them are nice and easy like this. So what you do is you drive over the back of the trailers there. You can choose what side this tips, but I'm just going to leave it on the back for now. So you start overloading, and it will unload your crop into the silo. So that's nice and easy. So if I stop that from filling, and what you could do is, let's say my trailer's empty and I decide, oh, do you know what, I'm going to go sell these crops actually now. They're quite valuable. So what you do is you'd come along, you drive underneath, and as you can see there in the controls, it now says start filling. So if we press the button, it'll start filling. There we go, nice and easy. So you've got some crops. What do you do now? Well, first of all, you work out where you want to sell them. So we've got wheat. Let's have a look at the wheat sell price and see who's selling it for the most. Who's buying it, sorry, for the most. Okay, Goldcrest Valley, that is for the train. I will show you that maybe a little bit later. Let's go to Feeding Grain South. So I'm going to press A to tag the place, so it will now flash on the map. If you look down at my little mini-map, you can see there's a little blue icon down at the very bottom. That's the tagged selling location. And if you look, that's pretty far from where I am. I'm in the middle of the map, and that's all the way down there. And driving there is going to take a little while. So what I could do is I open up this pause menu, I go over to the wheel, and make sure I have the tractor I want selected, which I have. It might be that you're in a different tractor. If you want to tell a different tractor to do something, you find the vehicle and you just press in the right stick. So now I have my trailer attached tractor selected. And what you do is you can either set a destination with Y like this, and you'll start driving off to it. That's not me driving, look, I'm out now. Or what you can do is you can come into here. I still have the right vehicle selected, and press A to create a job. This gets quite fiddly. You'll forever get the controls wrong. You'll end up unselecting the vehicle, or selecting the wrong one, or sending them off to the wrong place, etc., etc. So what you can do is, depending on what your vehicle is and what's attached in the equipment, you can tell it to do different things. For example, I've got load and deliver, or go to with this. And that's because the game knows I have a trailer connected. I don't need to load because I've already loaded, but I do need to deliver. So what I want to do is I want to deliver down to here, which was Feeding Grain South, something like that. So what I do is unloading station, Feeding Grain South. It's a shame it doesn't flash the one that you have selected, but anyway, Feeding Grain South. The loading position is fine, you can just leave that. And looping. Looping means if you have that turned off, they will deliver, and that's it. If you turn looping on, they will deliver, then return to where they were when you set them off. So the tractor will come down here, deliver the crops, drive back up, and park himself roughly where he is now, providing nothing gets in the way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press X. It's A to create a job, X to start it. I don't know why it's that way around, but it is. So I'm going to start that, and as you can see, off he goes. So you can do this with various machines. I'm also going to show you another one. That's if this works. Let me quickly run at him. So I need to cultivate that small field over there. I don't know if he's going to be able to find it through this field, but I'm in the right tractor. If I press create job, you can see up there it says field work. So what I can do, you have to specify the target location. As you can see at the moment, the target location is the field I'm on at the minute. So you highlight the target position and you press A. There's no UI information that tells you to press this button. So make sure that you remember that. So you press A, you pick the edge of the field, and then you tell it to start the job. And again, off he goes. And I don't even need to start the work for him. He should, fingers crossed, start it straight away by himself. There you go. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, wonderful. So that's how you use the AI menu. So remember, if you want to just send someone somewhere. Hey, has this contract finished? No, definitely not. Look at all that. Oops. By the way, with contracts, you don't have to do absolutely everything to complete it. Quite often it's at a guess something like 85% of the job to complete the contract and get your payout. You don't get more if you do the whole thing. So I'm just going to send this off to roughly finish the contract. Oh, as you can see up there, I've got plus 3,800 harvest income. That's because our AI helper has just sold the crops. So now he's going to try and make his way back to where we sent him off from. He'll just quickly come back over here. I imagine if any of you got OCD or perfectionists, you're looking at how this field is getting sprayed and cringing. To be honest, it's a really horribly shaped field. Starting to believe that I've actually already completed the contract. Let's have a quick look. By the way, if you're doing contracts, the way that you see how far you've done is you just hover over. As you can see, they're 93%. So I've still got a little bit more left to do, and then we're done with contracts. Not all equipment can have an AI worker do the job for you. A lot of the more involved aspects of the game, such as animal husbandry and forestry, practically none of it can have AI workers do the job for you. So don't be so lazy and do it yourself. Have I really not done this contract yet? Usually you would have a lot more unfinished parts of the field before it would complete it. I've got to done this manually. Oh, that's why you missed loads of them. If you keep your eye just underneath where my money is at the minute, it will pop up when you're done. When you've completed enough of the field to complete the contract, there it is. Contract on field 72 finished. At this point, you go ahead, open up that contracts menu, and you can see there it says completed. All you do is you press X, and it will give you the money and take the machinery away from you. And anything you did miss, it will do for you. Okay, so there we are. Our tractor's back where we set it off from. We are... The AI worker I told to do the field is doing the field. We've planted some crops for this season on that field over there. And yeah, that is probably the key information for when you first start out. Another thing, these are so useful. So useful. This thing here, you're going to be using it so much. Let's say I've got to the end of the day, I've done all my field work, and I'm like, well, I'm just sat here twiddling my thumbs. I want it to be the next month. You come here and you tell him to sleep. This allows you to skip a day. Now bear in mind, the actual houses that allow you to do this, they're called farmhouses. They're really expensive, but thankfully Giants added, in the latest patch, they've added a really cheap version that's every bit as effective. It just looks different. And there we go, we're through to the next day. We're now in September. Just remember, I've only got 1 day months on. As you can see here, we've got some greenery, but this isn't cropped. These are weeds because I turned weeds on. If you have them off, these won't show. If you have them on, you're gonna need to get rid of these because they really reduce your crop yield. So other than that, I think we are done with this particular this setting, starting out on easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the main menu, and we're going to start on the other difficulty. We're going to go on medium. I'm not going to bother with hard. It starts you off with 0 money, 0 equipment. So you just have to do contracts to build up your money and lease equipment. Eventually you'll be able to buy a field, blah blah blah. There's no point me showing you that because it's just the game but with no money to start with. So we'll go back to the main menu. Career. I'm going to delete that save. And we're going to start again. But this time we're going to go farm manager. I'm also going to pick one of the other maps. So we're going to start at Horde Baileron. And I'm on medium. This time it will give me no land and no equipment, but it will give me 1.5 million to start with. So this is the starting location. When you go on easy, you'll own this, and there'll be a couple of other buildings, and you'll own that field plus the next one, I think. Anyway, so what we have to do is we're here, we have no equipment, we have no land. You can see up in the top right there, I've got 1.5 million pounds. So what do? We press the select button and it opens up the shops. First things first, you're going to want to buy the equipment that you want. So let's say, let's grab a couple of tractors. I'm just going to pick random equipment just so that I can show you how this all works. You can change stuff like tires. You can, on some of the equipment, you can change various aspects of it. Buy this as well. Let's say, I don't know, we want a plow. So none of the equipment I've got. If you look down at the bottom there, you can see 162 kilowatts and 222 horsepower. So the horsepower is the one that I go by. That is the recommended power of the vehicle to be able to use that piece of equipment effectively. So if I was to use this on one of my tractors that I just bought, what's that, 100? We'll go for the 190 and we'll go back to the plan. So if I was to try and use the eco mat on either of my tractors, it might work, but it's not going to be effective. And if I have to go uphill, there's a very good chance that the tractor won't be able to carry on working. It might just not have the power for it. Whereas this 160 horsepower plow, I will be able to use either of my tractors for that, and it will work effectively. You can also see the work width down there. That's the thing that says 2.5 meters or 3.5 meters. The thing next to that is the work speed. So that's how quickly that piece of machinery can be used. And also in the middle there, you can see, I don't really know how to describe it, stacked cubes, and there's a -4. That is like an object limit within the game. And the way that I always check how close I am to my limit, I mean, you're not going to get close to the limit for a while, but is if you open up the construction menu, if you look down in the bottom right there next to where it says Big Garage, you can see currently it's 186 of 2,598. I'll come on to construction in a minute once I've got some land. Okay, so let's say I want the plow, then let's grab a plow. And let's say I want you would actually have an idea in your mind of what sort of crops you were planning on doing, so you would use the machinery for those crops. For example, let's say I wanted to do forestry. If I was going to do forestry, I wouldn't really bother buying more than one tractor. And I would come in here and I'd buy the forestry machines, the ones that I need. Another thing that you can do, by the way, is let's say I wanted to do a bit of forestry. Let's go for that one. I don't have any of the trees planted. Okay, I'll do this as, let's pretend I was going to do some forestry on this save. So what you can do is you can lease. So if you open up this this menu to the screen where you can make customizations, instead of pressing the buy button, if you press the lease button down there, you can see it's X. You pay a massively reduced fee to use the machine. However, it does cost per in-game day and per work hour. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Also, something that you should probably check. I think it changes every 8 hours in-game, but I usually just check it once every time I've slept. This used vehicle menu, it can have, I don't think anything here won't appear in the used vehicles at some point. Some pieces of machinery show up less often than others, but let's say, for example, I wanted this telehandler. I can buy this telehandler with 44% knocked off. It's used though, and I'll show you what that means in a second. So if I go ahead and buy this, so what we got to do now? So we got some equipment, just a random smorgasbord of equipment. So we want some land. So you can either come over to here and do farmland, alternatively you can do it from the pause menu. That's usually where I go. So you press the left stick to activate the farmland purchase feature, and let's buy the one closer to the shop. This is the shop, by the way. So we'll buy that. So that's now my land. As you can see, 37 is blue. That means I own that. So we'll swap over to my machines. Oh, I've got engine auto start on. So I'm just pretending I've started a game and I have some sort of goal in mind. I don't, but I'm just showing. So this is the field. This ahead of me is the field that I own. So I don't know, let's say there was, I mean, I think cotton. Okay, cotton doesn't need ploughing after, but let's imagine this was beetroot or potatoes. Potatoes and beetroot require ploughing after every harvest. So let's go ahead and do some ploughing. Or even if I wanted to make the field bigger, I can, with a plough, it has to be a plough, not a subsoiler. You can make the fields bigger. So if I lower this, here I look, as you can see, I am creating a field. If you're trying to make a bigger field, you have to do it manually. You can't get the AI worker to do it for you. However, you can also rest easy in the knowledge that if you have a plow on you, as long as you don't have it on allow create fields, if I lower this now, I'm not going to create a field between those two bits of dirt, but I can still plow this field. Also, if you set the AI worker off, it doesn't matter whether it's on allow create fields or not, it won't create fields, it will just plow. So there we go. So we've done that. This piece of machinery is one that I've leased. Can't actually show you me using this because I don't have all the equipment to cut down trees, and also it's a real faff. It'd probably take me an hour just to deal with one tree, but I do really enjoy forestry on this game. So if you remember, this is the vehicle that we purchased from the used catalogue. If you look down there next to the gear icon, you can see the wear of the machine is actually quite high. It's quite worn. So what we do, I recommend you doing this every time you buy used machinery, is you just take it straight to the shop, inside this yellow square. Oops, I ran past it. And you open up this menu and you just tell it to repair. Okay, that only cost me 2,000 and it's still cheaper than buying one of these brand new. But that's how that works. And as you can see now, the vehicle is fully repaired. If you're in a harvester, always keep them topped up. It loses something like 6% crop yield for every something like every 5% of wear on there. So it's really important you keep harvesters in tip-top shape. With other machinery, stuff that doesn't harvest crops, it reduces the power. So it might be all of a sudden you find your tractor isn't ploughing anymore because it's not powerful enough. Make sure you repair that tractor and it should work fine. So we've learned about the shop. You can buy all sorts of various machinery, and you can lease equipment that you can't afford. Let's say you wanted, I don't know, I've bought a plough but I haven't got a cultivator. And let's imagine I don't have very much money. Then I'll go into the cultivators, I come over to pick one that would be suitable, and instead of buying it, I could lease it. It's not going to take me long to use it. Once I've finished leasing it, I'll return it. I'll show you how to do that. This is your leased items. It's the little key on this in the select menu. When you want to send them back, when you're done with them, you just send them back like that. They don't have to be driven back to the shop. You can do it from the menu. And by the way, I highly recommend you send back machinery as soon as you're done with it, because the daily leasing costs are actually quite expensive. It doesn't matter what difficulty you're playing on, you will be quite surprised at how expensive the leasing costs are. So if you can manage to finish with it within the day, then send it back. If you're only going to be using it once a year, it is cheaper to send it back and then release it when you need it. Okay, so that's that done. Another thing, as you can see there, I can sell my tractor. If I sell my tractor here through the menu, I get 81,199. If I was to drive this tractor backwards into here, this is something you should bear in mind if you ever want to get rid of machinery or equipment. If I open this back up, if I was to sell it here, I'd get 89,319. Basically, you get a fee deducted when you sell via the menu. So if you bring especially expensive equipment, stuff like the cotton pickers, there's a cotton picker here that's 847,000. If you sell that via this menu, you're going to lose out on probably 80 grand, and that's a lot of money. So anyway, now we're going to do some construction. I'm going to show you how to make your farm look better. So remember on the easy map, I said that the farmhouses are really useful because you can skip night and day. So they're found down here. This is actually quite hard to navigate, this menu, so just try and bear in mind what you have selected. So unless you're happy to spend the 150,000 buying the big farmhouse, the one that you already saw when I spawned in on this map, I would suggest you always buy the trailer park house, the caravan, whatever this thing is called. You buy this one because it's only 20 grand and it allows you to skip days, so that's the best one. Okay, so you don't other than this, you don't really need anything depending on what you're playing. If you're doing just crops, you can sell your crops as soon as they're harvested. You don't need a silo. Silos are only for if you want to keep your crops for a bit, if you want to wait until there's a better sell price or what have you. But you can find all the different pieces of equipment that you need, all the different buildings that you need within these menus. So I was showing you about, I was telling you about the silos. So this is similar to the silo that I had on the, I think this is the silo that I had on the previous game that I was playing, the previous save. This silo here, you need a conveyor belt to drop off crops, and it goes into this top bit. It won't open, it doesn't animate or anything like that, but to get the crops in, you need to use one of the largest conveyor belts. I'll show you what they are in a second, but that's the important information. What else is there? Okay, so we've got the production buildings. You can purchase additional production buildings that aren't available on the map, or you can just put some. It might be, for example, there's a spinnery on this map, but you want one that's closer, so you can just come in here and you can be like, yeah, I'm gonna put that there. Okay, I guess I don't own that little bit of glass. There we go, so we're going to pop that down there. Lovely. There's my spinnery, even though I'm not doing cotton, I'm actually destroying the cotton field. So, one thing I'm going to say is, right now, on Farming Simulator, these generators are horrendously unbalanced. If you buy yourself a large wind turbine and a few solar collectors, you will earn something like between 40 grand and 100 grand every month for doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm going to show you my other save in a minute before we finish. But if you want to have a constant income, the very first thing you should do is buy the smallest field you can find on the map, get yourself a large wind turbine, take out the maximum loan, get yourself another large wind turbine, and then buy as many large solar collectors as you can with what's left. And then just sleep. You just keep sleeping. And then you can pay off your loan, you can buy some more solar collectors, and eventually you'll get to the point where every month you'll be getting like 200 grand, 300 grand. I think Zach's at the point where he's getting something like 700 grand every time he sleeps. Though be aware that does take some of the fun out of the game when you're earning that much. On my personal save, I earn about 40 to 60, and that's enough to keep my farm going without being too much. Also, if you're interested in doing grapes or olives, you come into the build menu to do those. They're not planted, they have to be placed. And you place them. It's not going to let me place them for some reason. Oh, I think you have to place them on a field. Nope, not letting me place them. Don't know why. This is really strange. It's not letting me place Okay, for some reason it's not letting me place them, but that's how you do it. You come into this build menu. Greenhouses, these are really high maintenance. I really don't suggest you do these, but at the same time, they are quite nice to look at. You can make quite a bit of money off of these, a bit, but they have a very high workload. But as they're a production building, I'm going to place that down just so that I can show you how that works. Your animals are all in here. I'm not going to get time to show you animal husbandry. It's a bit too advanced for this anyway. This is just for getting started. If you want to do animal husbandry, I really recommend you check out some tutorials online. Alternatively, start on Erlengrad on easy and you will be given a cow pen and the equipment needed to look after the cows. That will be your best way of starting animal husbandry without feeling your way through it, if you know what I mean, stumbling your way through it. By the way, anything you place, be sure that's where you want to place it before you do, because you only get a portion back when you sell. With some things it's half, and usually they're the expensive things. So yeah, I will let you all discover the animal husbandry side of things yourselves. So landscaping, one thing you want to do before placing buildings, I didn't do this because I'm not that fussed, I'm going to be deleting the save, but one thing you want to do before you place buildings is you want to manually level the area where you're going to place it, because otherwise the game can do all sorts of weird things. And that can be found within the landscaping tools. You can also change the intensity of the brush, the size of the brush, the shape of the brush, and then that will mean that when you place something down, it's not going to deform the terrain in a way that you don't like. And let's say, I don't know, that looks like a bit of a cliff there, like a mini cliff. So what I can do is I can come over here and I can do the smooth terrain tool, and it just makes it less bumpy, smooths it out a little bit. So you can fiddle around with this to your heart's content, and I'm sure you'll have great fun trying to deal with the mistakes that you make, because you will make them. Trust me, you will. Also, if you wanted to, as you can see, I got rid of all the plants when I did that. If you want to plant the grass, you come down to meadow and you plant meadow. It's quite expensive, by the way. Whereas if you want to, for example, over here where this concrete is, if you wanted to make it look like this grass terrain, you go to the painting and you paint. You paint it down. It's not letting me paint that bit of terrain. Apparently I don't own this tiny bit of land, but I was able to place a building on it, so something strange is going on. Anyway, so that's how you use the those are the key parts of using the construction menu. One piece of really important information I want to give you before you place anything: move your cursor off of your land. When I was playing this a little while ago, and it happened so many times, what would happen is I would press A to make it spawn in like this, so I could move it about and see how it looks, and it would place it instantly. If you move your cursor off of the screen, it will spawn in, you'll be able to see it, but it won't place it straight away. I really recommend that you get into the habit of just moving the cursor off of your land, just in case that bug is still there. I don't know if it is, because I always move the cursor now. But to stay on the safe side, I really recommend you do that. So that's how you use the building tools. So let's quickly go over to Okay, so the animals, if you buy a pen instead of the big barns, the big sties or whatever they're called, if you buy the smaller pens that are fenced, you need to water your animals. Also, if you buy any greenhouses, they have to be kept watered. So the way that you do that is you get yourself a water trailer, and you can do this a couple of ways. You can, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to get it down now. Oh yeah, I'll be able to go down now. You can either build a water, it's like a water butt, and it's in the construction tools. However, you pay for that water. Please be aware that you pay for that water. It is not an infinite source of water. However, if you reverse your water trailer into a river, anything that's deep enough, you can fill it for free from the river. So as you can see, I'm filling it up 100%. Let's go. And that cost me absolutely nothing other than the price of the trailer. So we go over to our greenhouse. And now we're on to the subject of production buildings. So let's fill up this. I won't be able to show you production buildings properly because they take quite a bit of setting up to do. You know, you need crops or you need various things to give to the production buildings to get that all set up. So let's open this door and we'll manage this. So as you can see, we've got some water in there. Incoming materials. All production buildings require incoming materials, right? So for example, if you want to make clothes, you need to give cotton or wool. If you want to make cereal, you need to give I think it's oat and honey, or I can't remember the other one, but it's with raisins. Anyway, so the various production buildings require various things. The greenhouse can make all three of these. I can make tomatoes, lettuce and strawberries, and it will make equally. If I turn off that's the wrong menu. If I turn off lettuce, it doesn't mean I'm going to make more tomatoes and strawberries. It just means I'm not making lettuce as well. It does mean I'll use less water though. If you are interested to know what items go where, there's some really great graphics on the Farming Simulator wiki. If you look up production, just type Farming Simulator 22 production chains. You'll find it on Google Images or in the Farming Simulator 22 official subreddit. They're really, really useful. I should have had one ready to show you, but it didn't even cross my mind. So anyway, let's say we've got these active, right? You can see there it says it's running. It costs money per day. It's going to run 768 cycles per month, and it uses 2 water to make 1 lettuce. So, what does that mean? To my trailer, I probably should have put these a bit closer together. And I'll skip through to next month. Oh look, we've got some tomatoes. Oh no, sorry, these are strawberries. Just staring at them going, oh look, tomatoes. Those are funny looking tomatoes, aren't they? So, I'm glad that we got 1 pallet and not 700. Because that's what it's like with greenhouses. You're going to have so many pallets to deal with. Anyway. So, as you can see there, it says pallet, owned by me. Mass 400 kilograms, that's far too heavy for us to pick up, and as you can see up in the top left there it says object too heavy. It didn't used to be though. And then there's 500 litres of strawberries. So what does that mean? Well, if I go into the sell menu and go down to strawberries, that price there is per 1,000 litres. So basically, if I was to sell it at Le Jardin de Fermier farm shop, I would get £206 for this one pallet. If I come over here, I'll show you a little bit more about the production buildings now that we've got some production going. As you can see, under the tomatoes, lettuce and strawberries, you can see it says, respectively, 471, 235 and 443 storing. What does that mean? That means that's how much it's produced so far that hasn't been turned into a pallet. When that reaches the amount, so for example with strawberries, it will be 500 litres. So when it reaches that 500 litres, that will go back down to 0 and I'll have another pallet of strawberries out of it. However, if this row is full of pallets, what will happen is this will carry on producing until the storage is full. I think they've... That's new. Oh, that's... Okay, that's... I don't know how to explain this to you. It's a feature that was available on PC, and I reported a bug to say that it wasn't available on Stadia. Now they've added it, but I don't know how to use it properly. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that on storing for now. Basically, what you can do is you can have this auto sell. You lose something like 35% of the sell price when you do that. But anyway, let's just leave that on storing. So this will carry on until I run out of water, which will be very soon, and then it will say, you know, the greenhouse is missing missing materials, which is water. What will happen though is it will continue to charge me for production costs, whereas if I turn this off, this greenhouse now costs me nothing. Okay, so that's a quick, really quick look at production. Well, if I quickly show you another production building, if I go over to the go over to the sawmill. Some of the buildings in the game, they can be bought. Oh, that's the wrong one. That one. I know what they call it. So I can buy the sawmill. That doesn't mean I own the land around it, but it does mean I can delete this from the map. I really recommend you don't try and sell production buildings because you can't place them back. Okay, so what that means is, let's say I've got some wood, I could come drop it off. However, if you don't buy this production building, you can sell wood to this building. But because I own it, it will store the wood instead. Oh my god, they can all do it now. Didn't know that. Oh my god, I think I might need to change my review. Anyway, so as you can see, there's a red icon here that says materials missing. That's because there's no wood in this production building that requires it. So what I would do is I would deactivate it. If there's a red icon, it means it's active and it's charging you. So I deactivate it so it doesn't cost me the £48 per month. And what would happen is you would give it wood, it would produce wood? Planks. It would produce planks. Planks would spawn here. And then the planks can either be sold or further, they can be put further into the production chain by being dropped off here. You would also need to buy this carpentry workshop. You would drop off the wood here. And then, oh, that's what I need. The carpentry workshop would create furniture. And the furniture is the end of the wood chain, the wood production chain, so there's nothing else you can do with furniture other than go and sell it. And the furniture would spawn here. Now bear in mind, different productions have different pallet weights. The planks are something like a ton. The furniture is, I think it might be 1.5 tons. The eggs are something like 70 kilos, but they're still too heavy to handle by hand. So now I get to tell you about my favorite machine in the game, and I'm being sarcastic. The forklift. If you're doing production chains, you will need a forklift. okay? Because every opportunity the game gives, every opportunity the game has, it will give you pallets. And they're fiddly, they're a nuisance, they cause all sorts of glitches. Lee was talking about it earlier on when I started the stream. They're just a nightmare. And I don't know whether I'm going to be able to show you, but just on the off chance. So the idea here would be you'd pick up the pallet and load it onto a trailer, then you drive the trailer to a sell point and you would sell the strawberries that are within the pallets. This forklift is electronic. There are only about 3 vehicles in the game that are electronic, and they're all really weak. But there we go. That was nice, easy. I didn't have to faff about with it too much, but we got the strawberries. Be careful when handling pallets. If you stack them, the machines can only take so much weight. If you were to stack 4 strawberries on top of each other and then try and lift them up with a forklift, you're probably going to flip the forklift. Also, pallets on top of pallets is like ice on top of ice. If you jig about too much, the pallets will all fall off, they'll be all over the floor, and they're really difficult to right if they're upside down or on their side. Another thing as well is don't go around corners too quickly, because there's centripetal force, I think it is, and they'll come flying off. I don't think this is fast enough for that to happen. Well, anyway, it will happen to you at some point. You're going to end up with pallets come flying off because you made the turn too quickly. But I think that is about it for getting started with Farming Simulator 22. If you want to, if you're starting on the medium difficulty and you haven't done much on easy, you don't know how to do, for example, grapes, you don't know what machinery you need. If you come to the store page, the select button, and come down to packs, you can see these groups of these options here. So let's say I wanted to do grapes. If I come in here, it will show you the basic machinery you need to do that. It's usually some of the cheapest stuff, but it's what's going to get you started. So if I was to buy all of this machinery, I would have everything I need to do grapes. If I wanted to, I don't know, let's say I wanted to do poplar. If I bought all of this machinery, I'd have everything I need to do poplar. And it even shows you this this pallet, which is what you need to fill up the planter to be able to plant poplar. So that's how you get started into the things that aren't just simple grain. As you can see, look, this is all the machinery they gave us on easy mode on the previous save. So I believe that is everything I wanted to show you in this very quick how-to. I say quick how-to, it's been an hour and a half. There's so much in this game that I've skimmed over so much, and I hope I've given you enough to at least get started. Just remember, there's 2 very, very, very important pieces of information that I've told you. First of all, make sure you set autosave to 5 minutes. I cannot stress that enough. Honestly, I cannot. And the other important thing is, if you want to buy any pieces of any buildings, if you want to buy any buildings, move the cursor off of land you own, just to spawn the item in. Otherwise, you might end up accidentally buying it when you don't mean to. And other than that, all that's left for you to do is to just enjoy yourself on this game. It's very laid back until it isn't. Until it becomes a bit of a nightmare. Quickly show you my current save that I'm playing. By the way, just to let you know as well, I probably should have said this at the beginning of the stream. The music that you're hearing is not from the game. That's music I have added to this to my broadcasting software. It's all licensed music as well. So, yeah. Anyway, this is my current save. I'm going to quickly flick through some of the machines that I own. And it's very easy for things to become a little bit overwhelming. If you look down at the minimap, you can see I own practically the bottom corner of the map. I've got two of the largest cow pens at 1.5 million, and there is a lot of constant work. Every day I've got something to do. As you can see here, there's you can see there are stones, so I need to remove the stones from this field. I also need to lime it, and I need to weed it as well. It's very easy for things to become overwhelming, so make sure you customize your settings and only get involved with things that interest you. If you want to try something new, I really recommend you create a new save specifically for it, rather than potentially messing up the save that you've already made progress on. But there we go. We've reached the end of the stream. I really hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you got lots of useful information. I really hope none of it was useless. And if you have enjoyed this, then go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't, feel free to hit the dislike button. Honestly, it helps me curate my content. If you would like to see more stuff like this, I am going to be streaming more often now. I know I've taken a long break, but if you'd like to see more stuff like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And you know what the notification bell's for. It's up to you if you want to use that. Is there anything else that I usually add? I haven't done this in so long. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time of day it is, whether you're watching this live or you're watching it back on the VOD. I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks very much. Goodbye.